Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys, and today we're going to talk about AI technology. We're going to touch on Photoshop's beta, and we're going to dig a little deeper into the impact of this on all photography, especially wildlife photography. We're going to get into that right after this. I've been teasing AI over the last several videos, and I started with Photoshop's 24.5 release. A couple highlights in there. It was more of a how-to and showing you some of the tools. But of note is that the remove tool has some AI technology built in. In the other video that I did, I talked about what is wildlife photography. And on that scale, I had a scale that started at very benign photography and went up to AI, meaning at AI, it's no longer photography, and it's certainly not wildlife photography. Did a video on Photoshop's beta, where we talked a lot about AI, and specifically the generative fill function, which is an AI-based function that integrates with Adobe's Firefly. And I showed you some examples of what that could do. Now, in this video, we're going to dig a little deeper into just the concept of AI and how it applies to wildlife photography, how it applies to all genres of photography. But I always cater my work here, to wildlife. And I'm going to show you a few things that I think you're going to find very interesting. I'm going to start by just showing you a video and introducing the concepts that I wanted to introduce in this video. Part of it is around skill, and part of it is around the impact, meaning the future. What's going to happen when this technology is not just in a beta format, but what happens when everybody has access? And not just through Photoshop, but everybody has access. We're going to get into that at the end of the video. Please stay tuned. I think you're going to find this pretty interesting. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop up two things over here. I'm going to pop a bottom video up, and I'm going to pop another video here on the bottom. You're actually going to watch me edit. In the top video, I'm going to call this old school. It's not too old school because I actually used version 24.5, which had the remove tool in it. And on the bottom, I'm going to do the AI edit of this. Now, let me pull up the full version of this picture so you can see what we're going to edit today. So this is a Kentucky warbler. Right out of camera. There's no editing done here. I may have adjusted the exposure a little bit, but you could see it's not a perfect image. But hey, if you're a bird fanatic, this is a Kentucky warbler in central Pennsylvania. We will take that. It's a very good bird. And I had an opportunity to work with it, and I was very, very happy with the results. So in this edit, you're going to see that there's a lot of details in leaves, like little holes, and there's a branch going through the bottom foot. I'm going to highlight that real quick for you. All right. I was curious if I was editing this and taking some liberty, obviously, if I was taking some liberty with this, how long would it take me to fix these things? How long to get rid of some branches, to fill in some holes on the leaves? I'm going to use cloning. I'm going to use some of the heal tool, and I'm going to use that replace tool. And on the bottom one, on that bottom video, I'm going to try to do the same thing. I'm going to try to get the same objectives accomplished, but I'm going to do it all with generative fill and AI. I'm not going to use any manual manipulation. So I have two things I'm going to highlight with this video. The first is the amount of time. So this top video, these are both sped up equally at about 5 times. The top video took me 9 minutes. I'm going to put a countdown timer on there. I'll start it in a minute. The bottom video took me 2. Significantly faster. I will tell you, you'll see at the end, the results were very, very similar. When I pixel peeped a little bit, I didn't think one was significantly better than the other. Honestly, the generative fill may have done a better job than I did in less time. So I'm gonna hit the go button. We're gonna start the record the video playback 5 times speed. Here we go. So as this is playing and you're watching, I'm going to talk about the second concept. Now, the first concept was just time. This AI technology has increased the speed of my workflow in an image like this. Now, some it won't be as dramatic. Some it would be significantly more dramatic. That's the first concept. Second concept, skill. The top video is not something that you can just open up Photoshop for the first time and accomplish. I'm not saying this is the most complicated edit in the world, but as you're watching this video up there, you're going to see some cloning and some removing, fairly simple. When I get down to that branch in the foot, it gets a little more complicated. Even using some of Photoshop's newest tools, it's going to take some time because now I have to manually kind of make a branch in there. And I've got to pick and choose pixels from the image that work and play around with angles on my clone brush. And you're going to see I fumble a little bit here and there with it. Eventually I get it 9 minutes later. But it takes some skill. I mean, you have to understand layers and masks. You have to understand the clone tool. You have to have a lot of experience knowing where to sample from and what to do, how to mask it in real nice, and how to make it look real. That's some skill. The bottom edit, which is already completed at 5 times speed. But again, it was a 2-minute edit. The bottom edit took no skill. Really, all you have to do is learn how to open Photoshop, how to download the beta version, or if it's out by now, by the time you're watching this video, it won't be beta anymore. How to open the program, how to do a lasso selection, which is all I did. The only tool I used in there was the lasso tool. And then how to type in a few keywords. I didn't even use keywords until I got down to connecting the branches. Eventually, I found a keyword that worked real well, and boom, there it was. And that's it. So that's, wow. So I want to show you a few examples now. So we talked about speed and skill of AI, how it's speeding up the process and diminishing the skill. I'm going to deal a little bit more with that skill aspect as somebody who, by the way, teaches Photoshop to people for wildlife photography. Never claimed to be somebody who knows everything about Photoshop, but I dive deep into everything. And I probably have watched thousands and thousands of YouTube videos about editing, and I cater that for wildlife photography. So here's the thing. At some point, is the skill start to become obsolete? And here's what I mean by that. I'm a little old school. Now, I'm not my dad. God bless his soul. I'm not my dad, but I'm a little old school. And I think about this concept of dummying down what we do as like a species. I can imagine years ago the calculator comes out and people are like, oh my gosh, people aren't going to learn how to do math. And they're kind of right. And then computers comes out and oh my gosh, people can't think anymore. We don't know how to repair things anymore. We just buy the new. And then I get into this concept of photography. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there with digital photography, kind of old school, that think it's too easy. Like there's no skill involved anymore. The camera's doing all the work. And now we get to the editing part. And not only is the camera doing the work, now the computer, the AI, is doing the editing for us. There's little skill involved. And that, ooh, man, that one hit me. And I thought, am I obsolete at some point? Like, are my what I would consider to be some of my talents, not just be in the field and not just with the camera, but also maybe some of my talents at the computer, are they now obsolete? And what does that mean? Are we dummying down the whole process? It's something to think about. Let me show you a couple examples. I'm going to jump into one more topic before we jump off today. Try to keep this video to about 10 or 15 minutes. Let me start here. I went into and just had a little bit of fun with a few images. Now, this is an image from my first video. I thought the concept was, let's have him singing into the bokeh. That was my mind set as the photographer. Typed into generative fill, a couple keywords, something like wispy, foggy breath, and that's what it got. Now, pretty amazing, right? That's cool. I captioned this thing like, on a cold, wintry morning, I stumbled on a mourning warbler singing in the canopy with his breath wisping through the wind, and nobody knows the difference. I take this picture and I thought, I didn't quite nail the composition, so I added a little space. So that white area up there was not part of the original composition. I just wish I had a little bit more up top. Really close look at this thing. What can AI do with this? Didn't type in any keywords. Just asked it to fill it in. And it did. And it did so incredibly accurate. And then I thought, you know what? I filled it in, but I got a little space down here in the lower left-hand corner. What if I type in fill with flowering raspberry? And let's make sure we get the right species. So I type in, because I'm a plant nerd, Rubus alleghaniensis. And it gives me this. Now, I am telling you, that is Allegheny blackberry right there. That's what it looks like. it made and it even put some flaws in it. If you look down, the leaves are a little worn. It just, and this was the first generation. I tapped it once. This is what I got out. And I thought, man, people are going to be using, possibly abusing this software. We're not even going to get into the whole subject of captioning these images, because you think everybody's going to say that this was created with AI or enhanced with AI? I'm not sure. Then I get into this last one. I got one more example for you. And let me show you where this starts. So I take this mourning warbler, one of my favorite images of the year. Just an amazing experience. I'll talk more about this in a minute, so please stay tuned to the end of this video. And it's in this beautiful rhododendron. It's got these pink blossoms, and he's foraging, and I'm loving it, right? And I'm creating this video, and I think, watch this. Let me see if this AI, after I've done a couple versions of this, and I'm starting to get pretty impressed with what it can do, could it take two birds in the same habitat, but that look very different? Could it merge them into one image that was natural and looked natural? So I took this second image and I put them together. Okay, so I have one image on the left, completely different, taken minutes or I think just minutes apart, but in a different part of the tree, the shrub. And then I have the other image on the right, taken at a different time. Now watch this. I type into generative fill in the Photoshop beta. I don't even type anything. I just select 3 areas of the image and hit generate. It creates a branch with the same textures and patterns and weather, and it gave me 3 options. Let me show you all 3 of these options. Watch the middle. It put little blemishes on the leaves. It added the textures, and the light matches perfectly. And it blended them pretty seamlessly. The exposures weren't perfectly. I did add a little, full disclosure, I added a little bit of light to this one because in the editing process, I forgot to add that light. The left side was not edited at all. The right side was edited. I can't do that in photo. I'm telling you, I'm pretty good in Photoshop. I can't do that. I can't make it look that good if I took a week on it. This took me 15 seconds to generate. I selected 3 areas, generate, done. It gave me 3 options. All 3 options were better than anything I could have done in Photoshop myself, and I've been doing it a long time. That is frightening. It's frightening for a lot of reasons, and it got me thinking a lot. It got me thinking about the future of photography, wildlife or otherwise. And is AI going to be a part of it? Absolutely. And are wedding photographers going to love it when they can take people out and replace it in a heartbeat because it's their profession and it saves them time? Boy, that's a wonderful thing. If I'm a professional wedding photographer, or I'm an event photographer, and I could just remove something real quickly without all the time. Life-changing. I mean, I'm getting time back in my editing process. Is it going to create other problems in terms of honest captioning, in terms of integrity? And these are photoshopped images through AI. They're not AI generated. The next thing I wanted to just real quickly touch on is what's going to go on with AI generation, meaning people are just going to make photos. So imagine this. Imagine I've got this beautiful mourning warbler. Let me put this one back up, a little bigger this time so you could see it, right? This is just, come on, man. This is beautiful. And I've got this beautiful mourning warbler. And I'm all excited. I'm going to put it out on social media and everybody's going to go crazy and just tell me what a great photographer I am. And I want to feel so wonderful because social media has validated me as a photographer. And then it's going to get buried in a feed filled with images that are equally as good, if not better. Some of them AI generated. And the photography, it's going to be tough to compete. It's going to be tough for photographers to compete with AI. I've done some stories on social media about content creators and how it's hard to compete when you're up against somebody who's shooting captive animals that are staged. The wolf in the snow and the dramatic music. And listen, I see a wolf in Pennsylvania. Probably not going to happen. I see a bobcat in Pennsylvania. It's super rare. It's probably going to be a pretty distant shot. I'm not going to get snowflakes and close-ups and yawning and stretching. I'm not going to get all that. So my little bobcat video, which is authentic, can't compete with the captive animal photo. And that's a little bit of a sore spot with me. Now, how are my images going to compete? How are your images going to compete as photographers when they're up against things that aren't even real? And in this society where we just click and get to the next image and like and get to the next image, there's no thought put into, oh, this is how it was created, or that's how it was created, or here's the skill that goes behind it. Sure, there's this saying, real recognizes real. I think other photographers might get it, but the general public probably isn't. And where are we at? Where are we at? This beautiful image of a duck that I took earlier this year, and I'm just really proud of it as a photographer. I lay in the side. I get up early. It's cold. I'm on the side of the lake. It's freezing. Finally, the duck comes out. I recognize the sounds of nature. I'm in tune with it. I've developed skills over years and years and years. It's in a feed on social media, and somebody who sitting in their basement sipping coffee decided to generate their image of a duck using AI. Never spent a minute out in the field. Doesn't know the species of the duck from another one. No skill, no talent as far as wildlife. No talent there in the field, and maybe no talent really editing or processing software. Just creating things. That is a tough one. And so as I'm thinking about this and getting a little depressed over the last few days, like, do I stay with this? Is it worth it? I mean, this is where we're headed, right? Like, this is where we're going. Is it worth it? And then I got back to this concept, and I've heard others talk about this. And I hope you've stayed with this video to this part, because this is the part to me that matters. This is the part that touches a little bit. Okay. So when I think about what brings me joy, and I do some gardening, native plant gardening, and I love the beautiful flowers, but I go back to the process. Like, I actually just spend time outside and I just enjoy weeding. Like, it sounds weird. Never thought I'd do that 10 years ago, but I enjoy getting my hands in the soil. I enjoy looking at new growth. I enjoy all of that. I think about wildlife photography. And if I go back a year and think of what were the greatest parts of your wildlife over the last 12 months. And I remember moments. Now, I remember images, and I'm proud of images. I got some images I really like, but I remember moments. So I remember like the snow falling and hitting me on the side of the lake. I remember standing on a mountain with a golden eagle eye to eye, and I blew the images. The images came out awful, a once in a lifetime experience. I don't regret that. I would have liked better images, believe me. It was the moment that I remember. It was the feeling that I remember. I think about this little warbler that I showed earlier, kind of bouncing through the rhododendron, a native plant, by the way, bouncing in there with this pink. And I just know it's going to look great, but at the same time, I also know it's just a magic moment. And so I think that's where I have to focus. And I'm challenging others out there to remember that. Some people are connected to the process. And for us, I think we're going to take some satisfaction in knowing that the people generating their images are actually the ones missing out. They may get the likes and they may get the views and they may get the endorsements or affiliations or whatever it is that they're looking for. But what they can't get, what you can't get with AI, at least now, it might be coming, but what you can't get is the rush of a wood duck coming around the corner in perfect light. AI can't give you that yet. It might in the future, but it can't right now. it can't give you the rush of hearing a mourning warbler that nobody else has reported, that nobody else knows about, and you recognize the song, and it's a beautiful morning. It can't, and your heart is just filled with joy. AI can't replicate that. So I am going to try really, really hard to remember that as I'm scrolling through Instagram and I'm scrolling through social media, and I'm going to start to see some of this, and I'm going to start to wonder: is this real? Is it generated? How much of the photograph is a photograph, and how much of it is artificial intelligence put in there? So anyway, that's what I got for you today. I hope you hung out for the whole video. I appreciate it if you do. Down in the comments, please let me know. I hope this resonated with somebody. It's a little heartfelt for me today because I really had some good memories when I was making this video. I really gave it some thought, and I thought, yeah, I'm still in. And if I can't produce images at a level that competes with artificial intelligence, I can still be happy with what I'm doing, and I can still enjoy those valuable moments connected to nature, enjoying the species that I photograph. And I hope you do too. So thanks for your support on the channel. I'm going to remind you, down there's a little subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that now. Hit the bell for notifications. That'll let you know when I have a new video out. I really do appreciate your support on the channel. Really looking forward to reading the comments as they pop in. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.